Man, if you watched this last matchup, you felt the weight of every snap because the playoff picture just twisted in a huge way. The Eagles climbed to 8 wins and 2 losses, taking over the top seed in the conference and putting themselves on track to finally break that long drought of back-to-back division titles that has stretched since 2004. It sounds great on paper, but the vibe around the offense is anything but calm. The defense is dragging this team into victories while the offense keeps stumbling around like someone trying to find the light switch in the dark. And the wild part is that a few weeks ago, it really looked like this offense had turned a corner. When Jalen Hurts carved up Minnesota with more than 300 passing yards, 3 touchdowns, and 0 mistakes, everybody thought the ignition finally clicked. Then he followed that up by accounting for 4 more touchdowns the next week. Efficient, confident, sharp, the whole thing. It honestly felt like the group had finally hit its rhythm on the way into the break. But coming out of that bye, total opposite mood. Sure, taking down Green Bay at Lambeau was a strong win, especially against a team that had not dropped consecutive home games in 12 years. And beating Detroit on a short week, especially a Detroit team that has been one of the most physical squads in the league, should feel like a celebration. That defense stepped up and slammed the door on one of the most explosive offenses in football. Yet everyone watching could not shake the feeling that something was deeply off. 10 points one week, 16 points the next. It is impossible to act like those numbers sit fine when the roster has this much firepower. And trust me, I've been all in on Jalen Hurts ever since he arrived. I loved the pick when it happened. I defended him constantly through the early years. I pointed to those big games this season where he straight up dominated and showed exactly why he's a franchise quarterback. But these last 2 outings have been rough. Not average. Rough. Yes, the weather in Green Bay was brutal, with real field temps around 17 degrees and winds whipping around like crazy. Yes, it was chilly and gusty again against Detroit. But those conditions did not stop the other sideline from throwing the ball. They did not shut down Detroit's passing game plan. They just exposed how out of sync this Eagles offense has been. There were throws Jalen Hurts usually hits without blinking that he flat out missed. Simple, chain-moving plays that could have helped flip the flow of the game. Those misses pile up, and when your offense is already searching for identity, every wasted chance feels even heavier. And look, the last time I pointed out issues, some fans acted like I was calling for a quarterback change. That is not the point. The frustration is because we have seen how good he can be, and these cold stretches keep popping up throughout his career. He'll go nuclear for a couple games, then hit back-to-back lulls that make everyone wonder what's going on. The defense is the only reason these wins still happen. They are absolutely elite right now, playing championship-level football every week. But that cannot be the blueprint forever. Not in this league. Not when every rule is designed to help offenses shine. You cannot just lean on your defense to save the day again and again. That is not sustainable, especially when the postseason rolls around and every mistake gets magnified. In a run game, even a signature power sneak failed. When a play that has been automatic for more than a year suddenly gets stuffed, you know the offense is really out of rhythm. Nothing looks comfortable. Nothing looks consistent. And sure, Green Bay and Detroit have respectable defenses, but Detroit was missing 3 of their top 5 defensive backs. 3. And the Eagles still could not find a spark. That is not about talent. That is about chemistry, timing, and execution all falling apart at once. One thing that does deserve more attention is how often Jalen Hurts has had to adjust to new voices in his ear. It is insane how many play callers he has gone through since college. Year after year, new system, new verbiage, new approach. That constant turnover would mess with anyone. And what he has accomplished despite that speaks to how gifted he is. But even if that is true, it does not erase the fact that he has to be sharper than he has been these past 2 weeks. He cannot keep missing open receivers. He cannot hesitate on routine plays. He cannot wait for the game to come to him. There were route designs where the matchup could not have been better. Saquon Barkley had a defender frozen on a stutter and go with nothing but green in front of him, and the throw just never connected. Other chances slipped through the cracks. A couple drops happened, sure. And the current play caller is having his own struggles building rhythm, sequencing plays, and staying unpredictable. But at the end of the day, everyone has to elevate together, or this offense will be the anchor that drags down a team that should be fighting for another deep playoff run. The wide receiver dynamic has not helped either. When a top receiver gets frustrated about touches and the whole situation escalates to the point where it becomes a sideline storyline, it impacts everything. You could feel the offense trying to force the ball his way just to keep the peace. But forcing touches rarely works. It disrupts the natural flow. And when you do that and still do not get the production you hoped for, it leaves the passing game even more unsettled. Meanwhile, the receiver who has been the most reliable this season barely saw the ball, finishing with a single catch. That imbalance threw the whole unit off rhythm again. And look, this is not about who is better. It is about who is producing right now and who has chemistry with the quarterback right now. Every time the offense leans into that connection, they look smoother. Tonight, they went away from it, and the offense took another step backward. Even with all the frustration, it is still early enough in the season for a turnaround, but the clock is ticking. The talent is there. The blueprint exists. They proved last year how explosive and efficient they can be. But if they want to chase another championship, this offense has to elevate and do it fast. The defense is carrying them, and as good as that unit is, they cannot keep being asked to win games on their own. The margin for error gets smaller every week, and the postseason will bring teams that punish every mistake. Now, shifting to the defense, the entire energy of this team changes the moment they step on the field. This group is playing with a level of confidence and aggression that you usually only see from championship teams. The coordinator has them aligned, disciplined, physical, and absolutely unpredictable. And while the scheme is strong, it is the players who are taking it to another level. The impact is coming from every layer of the defense, but the most dramatic shift has come from the presence of Jalen Phillips. His arrival has completely transformed the personality of the pass rush. He plays with a mix of raw strength and surgical precision, exploding off the edge and crushing running lanes with the same violence he brings to the quarterback. Against Green Bay, he took over the game, and against Detroit, he backed it up again with tackle after tackle, constant backfield disruption, and pressure that never let the offense breathe. Pair him with Jay Hunt, with Nolan Smith bringing that raw burst, with Brandon Graham still giving valuable snaps, and suddenly the Eagles have a rotation that stays fresh for all 60 minutes. They're so deep that players who would be starters on other teams are barely seeing the field here. And that depth becomes even more terrifying when you look at the interior. Jordan Davis, Jalen Carter, and Moro Amo form a trio that might be the most dominant in the league right now. They collapse inside protection like it is nothing, forcing quarterbacks off their spot and creating chaos on every play. Tonight, both Davis and Carter were swatting passes at the line like volleyball players at the net. Those deflections killed drives, flipped momentum, and set the tone for the entire defense. That 4th-and-1 stop on Jahmyr Gibbs was the perfect example of how special this front can be. Gibbs is one of the most electric runners in the league, but almost slipped through the line, exploded into the backfield, and ended the play before it could even begin. Those kinds of moments break an opponent's confidence. And when you stack plays like that over the course of a game, it becomes suffocating for any offense trying to find rhythm. Moving back to the secondary, the growth has been just as impressive. Quinn Mitchell is playing at an all-pro level, breaking on passes with instincts that seem almost unnatural for a player this young. Cooper Dean is showing why he is viewed as one of the most reliable slot defenders in football, sticking to receivers and making plays that bail out the defense when the pass rush does not get home. Even when Adoree Jackson gave up a touchdown, he settled in and kept everything in front of him. Since the first week of the season, he has not allowed more than 40 receiving yards in a single game. And then there is the emergence of a player who has become the heartbeat of the second level. Nakobe Dean looks like he never missed a step, and it is staggering considering the injury he returned from. Watching him run step for step downfield with speedsters like Gibbs and Jameson Williams shows just how freakishly athletic he is. His impact as a blitzer, his ability to diagnose plays, and his leadership in the middle have instantly elevated the entire group. If he continues playing at this level, He's going to earn a contract that might not even fit within the team's long-term budget. That is how big of a leap he has taken. The numbers tell the story of how dominant this defense has been. Jared Goff, who has been playing some of the most efficient football of his career, finished with 14 completions on 37 attempts, barely over 250 yards, 1 touchdown, and a pick. His quarterback rating was barely above 60. Detroit, a team that thrives on schedule and rhythm, finished 3 for 13 on 3rd downs and 0 for 5 on 4th downs. Add those together, and you get 3 conversions on 18 attempts. That is not just winning situational football. That is erasing an entire offensive identity. The defense kept the pressure constant from the first quarter to the final whistle, collapsing pockets, blowing up screens, forcing rush throws, and never allowing Detroit to settle. And that is exactly why the frustration around the offense keeps building. You do not get defensive performances like this every year. This kind of dominance does not come around often. It is rare for a defense to be this young, this cheap, this deep, and this explosive all at once. Eventually, these players will need to be paid, and that salary cap window will shrink. Jalen Carter is heading toward a massive extension. Nakobe Dean will deserve a big contract sooner rather than later. Morrow is nearing free agency. Quinn Mitchell and Cooper Dean are going to command major money. Reed Blankenship, too. You cannot assume this exact version of the defense will remain intact forever. This is a championship window, and windows close faster than anyone wants to believe. That is why every misfire from the offense feels so heavy. The team cannot waste a special defensive group like this one. They cannot allow red zone stalls, miscommunication, slow starts, or missed throws to undermine everything the defense is building. You look around the league, and you think back to those early 2000s Baltimore teams that rode a legendary defense all the way to a title despite limited offense. But this Eagles roster is not built like that. This offense is stacked with talent. Too much talent for these kinds of struggles to continue. That is why the criticism has grown louder. Not because fans are spoiled, not because expectations are too high, but because this team truly has the potential to chase back-to-back championships, something only the greatest franchises ever have been able to accomplish. And that possibility is why every game moving forward feels like a test. The defense is carrying its weight, and then some. Now the offense has to meet them halfway. They do not need to be perfect. They just need to play balanced, efficient football. They need to stop leaning on short spurts of brilliance and start building full-game consistency. They need to trust each other, trust the design, and trust their identity. If they can do that, this team becomes almost impossible to handle. If they cannot, the path becomes a lot harder, no matter how incredible the defense continues to be. Before we continue, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and give this video a like. Your support helps us keep delivering the latest updates on our Philadelphia Eagles. And don't be shy. Share your thoughts on the news in the comments below. Whispers are swirling through the league after a brief but fiery locker room comment from the Kansas City Chiefs. Head coach sent shockwaves straight into Philadelphia. According to people close to the situation, the coach allegedly delivered a blunt critique of the Eagles' current form, wording it in a way that insiders describe as far from diplomatic. The remark, intended for an internal audience, leaked almost instantly, lighting up message boards and fueling late-night sports talk with the intensity of a playoff race. Fans of the Eagles, always quick to defend their turf, wasted no time expressing outrage. Social media erupted within minutes, with posts accusing the coach of arrogance, disrespect, and even attempting to poke the nest of one of the league's most passionate fan bases. Some well-connected analysts suggest the coach underestimated how quickly a stray sentence can turn into a citywide uproar, especially in a place where football pride borders on sacred tradition. Inside league circles, there's chatter that the tension might not be accidental. Some believe the coach's jab could be a strategic psychological play, an attempt to rattle a team known for feeding off emotion. Others argue it was nothing more than a candid moment that escaped the protective walls of the locker room. An honest critique turned into a wildfire once it hit the rumor mill. Meanwhile, Chiefs players are reportedly trying to keep focus, though several are said to be privately amused by how far the story has traveled. Eagles veterans, however, are taking it personally, using the comment as added motivation. Rumor has it that even within the Eagles organization, a few fiery speeches were delivered behind closed doors, all aimed at channeling the fanbase's fury into something productive. Whether this spark turns into a full-blown rivalry flare-up remains to be seen, but one thing is certain. The coach's words, whether intentional or careless, have added a fresh layer of drama to two franchises already rich with competitive history. And if there's one thing both cities know how to do well, it's turn a rumor into fuel. That's it for this update. If you enjoyed the video and want to stay updated with exclusive news about our Philadelphia Eagles, be sure to subscribe to our channel and hit that like button. We can't wait to hear your thoughts in the comments. See you in the next video.